What's up, everybody? Joe Fortin here once again. I'm making this video in a response to a comment by one of my viewers whose name was Existential Lamentation. And what this viewer essentially said was, wow, you're the first person that I've heard describe this phenomenon, or twin flames, as the person I met was all of the others rolled up into one. And I'm going to explain this a little bit further. So I've met essentially since I had my heart chakra opening 7 years ago, I've met 4 people that I've had a dynamic with that raised a lot of questions. And the first one, they were just reflecting back to me a part of myself, a piece of myself, part of my being, right? And there was definitely like a strong connection there. In that case, externally, basically like that didn't go well, like at all. I was pretty imbalanced at the time. I was honestly, like, if you look up like the traits of like someone who's exhibiting like beta male behavior, that's sort of where I was at that point. And the second one, I've said essentially that was like a shadow twin relationship where like I was in a dark place. I had come out of a really harrowing experience and had been dealing with essentially a cult that was basically I was in a state of absolute fear when I met that person. Then I met another person, and this one wasn't nearly as intense as a couple of years ago, but incredibly intense psychic connection. And then I met Sydney. And when I met Sydney, it was like there were elements of all 3 of those people wrapped up into one person. Like physical characteristics, for example, they were all roughly about the same exact size. They all had roughly the same exact, like the same body shape, similar structure, like just like so many different things. One of them had extremely long hair. Sydney has extremely long hair. And so, interestingly, in different ways, it was like she reminded me of all of them. And there would be times when certain energies would come up between us, right? And like I would look at her and I would be like, what is going on here? Like, it's almost as if she's accessing that other person's personality structure. And there were some things between her and one of the others that were like, well, there's no way for me to talk about this without going into certain topics that, frankly, a part of me would rather not speak about. But it's like I don't know how to talk about this stuff without giving examples, because without giving examples, I feel like the examples in my experience are what give my perspective and viewpoint credibility, right? So I kind of have to talk about it a little bit. I made a video a while back called, I think it was like Shadow Twins, twin flames, you will be targeted, shadow twins, and how essentially what can happen, and I think what happens to a lot of people actually, is that they will meet a shadow twin, and this shadow twin will essentially be like a doppelganger of your real twin, except like an inverted version of them. And I said this before I even met Sydney, right? And if I was to go back, I mean, I have gone back and watched that video, and everything I said in that video was like 100% spot on. I actually had another YouTuber that I've worked with, whose name I won't mention, but he reached out to me and was like, dude, this is one of the best videos on this topic that I've ever seen. And that, I took that as a very great compliment from this person, because he's someone that I respect, that, in my opinion, has a very, very deep knowledge of these subjects. And yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit, why I think it's happening, what I think it means, and that sort of thing. You know, I want to briefly, so I actually tried to make a video about this yesterday, and I got hung up because I kind of went off on a little tear, on a little rant about how, you know, some people have made some problems in my life because, you know, whatever, people, it's like people can't deal with, like, the fact that other people, like, actually engage in independent thought. Like, it's like, you know, I'm speculating, I'm asking questions. Yes, I'm theorizing. That's, like, a part of how, like, actual science and investigation works. I'm creating hypotheses, right? Sometimes they pan out. Sometimes they confirm themselves. Sometimes I have to modify my beliefs or how I think things work based on the evidence that presents itself. And I think that I've done that. I think that I've really been thorough. I think I've documented, like, my journey and my thought process and the information. I'm very, very thorough with citing sources. If you've watched my content for any length of time, I always cite sources. I will give you websites and books to read and reference materials, and, you know, I will tell you where I got my ideas from and why I think they fit. You know, I'm very thorough. And, you know, I'm not claiming to be right about everything, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out, like, how this place works. How does my body and my psyche and my soul, how does this all operate? Like, what's the mechanics behind it, right? I'm not someone who's willing to just take at face value what's written in a single book or what's told to me by someone, you know, when I was a little kid, and just be like, well, that's the truth because so-and-so said it was. You know, so-and-so said that God wrote this in the book, so that must be true, and I'm never going to question that. I'm never going to think for myself and ask any questions. I'm just going to accept that at face value and run with it for my entire life, and then hate and ostracize people that don't agree with me. Like, no, I would like to investigate. I would like to, you know, actually test these things and see what pans out, see what holds water. Right, and so I got a little angry yesterday when I was kind of explaining that, because I've been dealing with, you know, I've been dealing with people attacking me. I've been dealing with people creating drama and problems in my life, you know, because essentially people have been trained to think that you're crazy if you, like, have any of your own independent thoughts on any of this. You know, you're not allowed to do any actual thinking or speculation, you know, in their little world. And I just don't agree with that, you know, and like I said, I'm very thorough, I'm very open, I'm very honest. I try to be as humble as I can be, you know. I will come on here, and if I make a mistake or I screw up, I've come on here many times and apologized. You know, I've made videos ranting about, you know, viewer emails and stuff like that, and getting fired up, and then realized that, you know, I went a little too far, and, you know, I've come on and apologized and that kind of thing. I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I'm not going to be engaging with any of that. If you leave any negative or hateful comments, I'm just going to delete them and then move on. So, you know, that's basically how my approach is going to go there. I'm here to help people. I'm here to, you know, I'm here to, I like figuring things out. It's, you know, I've always been good at that. I used to work on computers. I used to repair iPhones. I did some programming. I mean, I learned HTML by hand when I was in 4th grade on a Cassiopeia handheld computer because I thought it was fun. You know, I was a math science nerd, and I still am. See, this thing, people get confused. They think because they talk about spirituality, they must not know anything about science. It's like, I love science. I freaking love science. I don't like what, these special interest groups and corporations have done to butcher science and use it as a weapon against humanity. But you know, that's a topic for another conversation. At any rate, let's get back to the topic at hand, and let's talk about this phenomenon that I've been observing. So, like I said, it was literally like when I met Sydney, it's like all these people rolled up into one, and I felt like each one of the people that I met, prior to meeting her, it was like, wow, I couldn't have been more prepared to meet her, because this energy that's coming up, I've already dealt with it. And maybe I've already made mistakes in handling that in an improper way, but now I'm getting a chance to correct that, right? And that's how I viewed it. It was like, okay, this is like a test. It's like a review. It's like, okay, what decision are you going to make this time, Joe? You know? And clearly, I've passed 11:11 on the timer. So, why is this happening, though? Well, I'm going to encourage you once again, if you have not watched my Twin Flame and the Magic of 12 video, go watch that video. It explains some of what I'm talking about. But what I think is that, well, let's back up a second. Everything has a structure. You know, it's not for nothing that physics exists, right? Or quantum physics, or metaphysics. Right? What I am attempting to do is to figure out how this works. How does this operate? What is the structure of this? What's the structure of the reality field? What are twin flames really? Are they this mythical thing that only the highest of the high, and you have to be like on the level of like Shiva and Shakti, or Jesus and Mary Magdalene, or beings of this high of a stature to be considered twin flames? Or is it something a little bit more simple, like the fact that to exist in a polarized reality field, your soul had to split itself into polarized aspects in order to even be here? I think that's a little more logical explanation. And so I started doing some digging into this, and there's a whole bunch of different theories on it. And everybody's got a different piece of the puzzle. In my last video, I'm just going to mention it again. New World All-Star made a great video talking about, essentially the idea that everything is one. Right. Well, these ideas can be broken down. They can be explained. They can be, you can explain the structure behind them. You can explain the structure behind, like, what gives rise to matter and energy. Why does it say in the Bible, first came the Word, right? Well, if you get into advanced Keylontic science, they explain why that's written in there. And it has to do with something called the primal sound fields, right? Essentially, like, everything comes from sound first. Everything is sound first, right? Longitudinal waves, scalar waves, right? Which then goes through multiple different transformations, and in Keylontic science, this is called stair-step creation. It becomes light. The light is bent in certain ways, and that's what gives rise to matter and energy, right? And so what I'm essentially doing is I'm studying these things and trying to figure out, like, how does this all work? And that's what metaphysics really is. And it's like, it's kind of absurd to me that people are told that this is evil. It's like trying to like figure shit out and thinking about some shit is evil. Like, okay, the study of astrology, for example, so many people are told this is evil. It's like all you're doing is you're studying the planet's movements, and you're noticing how people's personality attributes tend to change depending on where they're at. What is evil about that? Can you please explain that to me? Why is that evil? It's just a science. It's a way of like observing something and like trying to figure out how it works. Why is that evil? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. It's not. It's just, it's a form of science. It's a form of observation. It's a form of, you know, postulating theories and seeing if they hold water, aggregating the data, you know, analyzing the data, and seeing what pans out. That's what I'm doing. I'm just doing it on, you know, levels that most people don't think about. So, you know, I must be crazy. So yeah, it's having this phenomenon. Well, what I think is occurring, right? There are twin flames, right, that exist at different levels. And I had this confirmed in a way that I'm not going to share on the channel, but for me it was pretty mind-blowing at the time. Cindy and I both had this confirmed. So essentially you've got, you know, if you've got 12 incarnates that are all aspects of one soul, and then, you know, 12 souls is in an oversoul, and so on and so forth, right? It implies that if you've got if you've got 12 in a pie chart and you've got a 6 in a 12 position, essentially, well, it doesn't imply this, but the 6 and the 12 position are considered the primary set of twins. Now, the other incarnates in that wheel, the way that I understand it, they're all twin rays with each other. So essentially, you could say that, you know, the other people that I met may have been twin rays. You know, the shadow twin incident, that I'm not sure how that fits in, because that is a complete inversion. So I don't know if that's actually part of the same soul, or if it's part of like an AI shadow replica of that soul. You have to understand what's going on here with genetics and what these dark beings are doing with genetics and why they're trying to alter our genetics and all these things. There's a lot to go into. But yeah, there's a lot going on with all that. You know, one thing that's going on, for example, you're familiar with like the concept of like indigo children, right? Well, they're trying to create something called a magenta race line, where they take the indigo genetics and invert the fire letters and create something, you know, distorted, you know, using the indigo genetics. They're trying basically right now, you know, these beings are limited to only being able to get up to like dimension 11.5. They can't use 12D energy, which is why the 12D shield, by the way, will protect you, and it will begin to clear any distortions in your field. What they're attempting to do is they're attempting to be able to basically invert the higher dimensional energy, which I don't know if they can or not. Basically, I mean, what I understand is that it's impossible, but they've managed to do a lot of things in this reality field and in this timeline that I think that have surprised even the oldest of beings, you know, that understand all these things. So anyway, I think that what happens with people that are higher level twin sets is that you'll come in, and often one or both of you will have, like, you may incarnate into a family that has a lot of distortions, a lot of miasma, a lot of things in your field to clear, a lot of things in your ancestral lineage to clear, right? And so in order to be with your true twin, right, you've got to step up to a frequency where you can actually, like, exist in the same space with them. And if you were to meet them too early, it wouldn't be good. You know, there's all kinds of stories about this. I don't need to go into it. But I think that what happens is that you'll end up meeting the other incarnates, right, who you have that resonance with, you run that frequency with, but it's a lesser mirror. It's not a perfect mirror because of the nature of how long it takes to go through the alchemical transformation to change, right? To change the ego and personality structure and to align it with the higher self, right? I think that what happens is that we get shown this in pieces until we get up to a place vibrationally where we could actually run the full frequency. You know, and this is like the Kundalini and the Kirashe and these types of things, right? You know, and higher level twin sets are probably going to incarnate actually into families that have more miasma and things to clear because they're capable of doing it, right? You know, that's not going to be always the case. You know, depends on your mission, right? Depends on what you're here for. Everybody's twin journey, everybody's journey here into awakening and ascension and all that is different. Everybody's is unique. That's why I don't subscribe to like the idea of like the stages of twin flames. You know, yes, there are cycles. Everything kind of follows the sine wave pattern, right? Everything spirals. But what those cycles look like might be totally different for you than it is for me. You know, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be explaining. One of which is the, you know, the synchronicities and the congruence and the psychic connection and how, you know, when you get into a quote-unquote physical union, right? You know, people talk about the union and separation phase, right? Well, that can look like, you know, frequency higher, frequency lower. When the frequency is high, you come together physically. When the frequency gets too low, you come apart, right? Separation. You know, moving into the fear-based adversarial energy, right? But then when you actually come into a physical union where you are able to keep the energy balanced well enough so that you can continue to coexist within the same physical space-time location, right? There's still going to be those oscillations, and what I've noticed is the indicators to me, right? You know, of course, you can obviously, if you're someone who's energy sensitive, you can, you know, consciously sort of gauge where your frequency is at. And what I've noticed is that when we're in a higher frequency, the synchronicities and the psychic connections, you know, the us doing the same thing at the same time, thinking the same thing at the same time, feeling the same emotions at the same time, all these things, all of that happens to a much higher degree if we're in a higher frequency. And the lower the frequency, the less all of that happens and the less congruent we are. And it's been very, very interesting, but also obvious. And so it's like you're going through almost like a micro separation. It's like you're still physically there, and, you know, maybe they, you know, go, you know, they go take some time for themselves for a few hours or whatever. But the thing is that on an energetic level, even though you're physically together, you're still kind of going through that separation, right? And what it looks like is, you know, maybe, you know, an argument or conflict or whatever. And with twin flames, if you have anything in your field that is still separated, right? You still have unresolved trauma, specifically around relationships and stuff like that. The energy is going to come up between you. Now, the determining factor as to whether or not it actually physically manifests is whether or not you're able to balance the energy internally, right? Or whether or not it's something that you don't understand well enough to do that internally. Therefore, what you suppress will appear in front of you. It will project out. They'll reflect that and mirror it back to you until you get to a point of understanding where you can basically integrate that part of yourself, right? I'm enjoying making this video right now because I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for the last year, and I just wasn't able to do it. Sydney's the first person that I ever met that I just couldn't talk about. I just couldn't. I wanted her here with me. I refused to talk about it until she was ready, because we knew when we met, literally on day one, we have text messages that we've looked at. We knew we had a mission here, on day one. She literally texted me and was like, I have this feeling we have the mission together. And this was literally a day or two after we met. And, so I waited till we got to where we are now to start speaking. But I'm really, really enjoying this because I've wanted to say this stuff for so long, because for me, I understand things better when I when I speak about them, when I make these videos. Making the videos gives me mental reference points, so that then when I go to like make my next video, if there's something, I can do a little bit of a shorthand and I can say, okay, go check out this video, right, to understand what I'm saying more. Therefore, I don't have to explain it all over again, right? So, yeah, I'm getting back into my flow. I've not felt like myself when I wasn't making content and not working with people. And we've been working on this for a while. There's been a lot of challenges, most of which have come in the form of, honestly, I mean, me and her are very determined and we know exactly what we want to do. There seem to be a lot of other people acting as conduits for essentially energy that's trying to interfere with us. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, there's just a lot of people that are trying to screw with us. And trying to mess us up, trying to break us apart, you know what I mean? And it's like, we just want to be left alone. You know, but this has been the case for me for years. I've been making content like this, simply trying to help people, simply trying to understand how this all works, trying to understand my experiences, what's going on in my life, and I've been attacked for it repetitively. So it's nothing new for me. You know, I certainly don't want that to be the case, but I've been dealing with it for years. And, you know, I don't know if, you know, if people are consciously trying to do this, you know, and you're watching right now, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but it ain't working. So give it up. So anyway, I'm going to be done. Thanks for watching my video. I'm doing kind of a question and answer format right now. So if you have any interesting observations, you have any questions, and I feel that it'll make a good video topic, I will do my best to try to answer it. So love you guys. Hang in there if you're going through it. We are in an interesting time right now. So buckle up, kiddos. It's getting real here on planet Earth. Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below and click the icon to your left to subscribe. New content every week about spirituality and addiction from myself, Joe Fortin. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.